All right, so we're diving into Tesla's Q3 2024 performance and future plans. We've got a stack of their financials, earnings calls, and even some analyses that are pretty critical of Tesla. And, well, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag. On one hand, record profits, ambitious plans, but then on the other hand, a whole lot of questions about their future. It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Definitely. So what really jumps out at you from all of this? Where do we even begin with this?
Well, the stark contrast is what strikes me the most. I mean, on the surface, Tesla's celebrating its second highest quarter for regulatory credit revenues. Like, other car manufacturers are really struggling to meet those emission standards, and Tesla's capitalizing on it.
Right, like they're cleaning up almost literally.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, their cost of goods sold per vehicle has dropped significantly. It's down to something like $35,100, a record low for them.
Wow. So with all those wins, you'd think it'd be all smooth sailing?
You would think so, right? But then you look at their revenue, and it's essentially flat compared to last year, even with all the price cuts they've been making and the attractive financing they're offering.
Hmm. So something's not adding up. Like, how can you have record profits with flat revenue?
That's the million-dollar question. It's a bit perplexing. It does raise some eyebrows, and it's making some analysts wonder if there's more to the story.
Okay, so let's dig into that. What are some of the explanations for this? What's Tesla saying?
Well, they're really highlighting their cost-cutting measures. They've been pretty aggressive with streamlining operations, which, to be fair, probably contributes to the profit increase. But some critics are questioning their accounting practices. It's a little murky.
Okay, so potentially some creative accounting going on. Give us an example. What are these skeptics pointing to specifically?
Well, for instance, there's speculation about how they're counting revenue from those full self-driving free trials. It's possible they're treating it as guaranteed income, which is a bit of a stretch.
Wait, so free trials are generating actual revenue? That doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah, it warrants a closer look. And then there's the whole lease accounting situation. It can get pretty complicated. And there are ways to, let's say, massage the numbers to present a more favorable picture than what's actually happening.
Okay, so some potential red flags with how they're generating these profits. And this is all happening while Tesla's pushing this big narrative about revolutionizing transportation. Affordable EVs for everyone, self-driving cars everywhere, robotaxis. It's a bold vision, but if their profit margins are built on shaky ground, can they really deliver?
It makes you wonder about their long-term sustainability, right?
Awesome.
Especially when they're so focused on making EVs affordable. I mean, they've been talking about cheaper models coming out in 2025, but we've already seen delays with that $25,000 car they promised.
Right, and Elon Musk himself has even called the standard version pointless, which feels a little out of touch, to be honest. Not everyone can afford a high-end Tesla. It seems their definition of affordable is shifting.
Yeah, and it seems like they're pinning their hopes on this autonomous cybercab as the key to affordability. They're all in on the Cybertruck now, which is interesting. Production is finally ramping up, and they're claiming a positive gross margin for the first time.
Hmm. So that's a significant step. But can that success really translate to more mainstream vehicles? Or is the Cybertruck, with its unique design and dedicated fan base, just a special case?
It's a good question. And then there's the Cybercab itself, which is essentially a Cybertruck stripped down, no steering wheel, no pedals, completely reliant on full autonomy.
Wow, talk about a radical concept. And Elon saying it'll be viable by 2026.
That's the claim, yeah.
That seems incredibly ambitious, especially considering the current state of their full self-driving technology. I mean, sure, they claim they've got this 100x improvement in miles between interventions with the latest software, and they're even hinting at a ride-hailing service they're running for employees in the Bay Area. But it all sounds a bit too good to be true.
It does, doesn't it? And the details are pretty scarce. Where's the concrete evidence?
Right, and the skepticism around FSD is definitely growing. We've seen some key departures from their autonomy division, and there's just not a lot of transparency around how many people are actually using FSD and how it's performing in real-world situations.
Yeah. It all raises more questions than answers. And then there's the whole claim about FSD surpassing human driver safety by Q2 2025. Again, that seems incredibly aggressive given all the complexities of achieving true full autonomy.
You're talking about navigating unpredictable road conditions, pedestrian behavior, weather, all those things.
Exactly, all those challenges. To just brush those aside and declare they'll be better than human drivers seems pretty overly optimistic, at best.
It's giving me flashbacks to when Elon said we'd have 1 million robotaxis on the road by 2020. Remember that?
Yeah, I remember. So that leads us to another big question mark. Optimus, the humanoid robot. Elon's convinced this is going to be the most valuable product ever, more valuable than their cars even. He's betting on Tesla's AI and manufacturing prowess to make it happen.
But Tesla's not the only player in this game, right? Companies like Hyundai with Boston Dynamics and Toyota with their huge manufacturing experience are also making big moves in robotics.
Absolutely. The competition is intense. It's not just about having good AI, it's about manufacturing at scale, ensuring reliability, safety, affordability. Underestimating the competition could be a big mistake.
And Tesla loves to present itself as this nimble collection of startups. But some critics are starting to question if that approach is sustainable.
It's true, we're seeing a lot of executive turnover. And there's this potential conflict between prioritizing innovation and actually achieving consistent profitability.
So is this startup mentality becoming a liability as they face more competition and more scrutiny? That's something to think about.
Yeah, it highlights the tension within Tesla. They want to be this profitable car company, but they also have this grand vision of changing multiple industries. Can they pull it off? We'll have to wait and see.
It's a fascinating and honestly a little nerve-wracking balancing act they're attempting. It makes you wonder, are they spreading themselves too thin? Would focusing on their core strengths, like vehicle production and battery technology, lead to more sustainable success in the long run?
It's a question worth keeping in mind as we analyze their next moves, because right now they're trying to be everything to everyone, and that's a risky strategy.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here. We've seen the impressive achievements, the ambitious goals, but also some serious questions about Tesla's financial transparency and whether they can actually deliver on all these promises. So where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's time to zoom in on some of these specific areas. Let's start with full self-driving. It's a huge part of their plans for the future, but is it really as advanced and safe as they claim? Let's examine the evidence, or lack thereof, and see if their vision aligns with reality. So yeah, full self-driving, it's supposed to be the key to Tesla's future, right? The foundation of their robotaxi plans, the cybercab, everything. But when you really start digging in, it gets kind of complicated. And to be honest, a little worrying.
Okay, so break it down for us. Tesla says they've made huge strides with their FSD software. They're talking about this 100x improvement in miles between interventions, meaning the cars can drive for much longer stretches without a human needing to step in. But how do we actually know if that's true?
Yeah, that's the problem. There's just not enough transparency. We don't have access to their testing methods, their real-world data. We don't know the exact situations where these interventions are happening. What do they even count as an intervention? Is the system really as reliable as they claim?
And it's not like we're seeing tons of studies from independent sources confirming Tesla's claims. In fact, there have been a lot of reports of FSD messing up, making risky moves, needing the driver to take over in dangerous situations.
Exactly. And there's another thing. Those high-level people who've left Tesla's autonomy division recently, some pretty important engineers and researchers, that might be a sign that they had concerns about how the technology was progressing or where it was headed.
It does make you wonder if they're maybe putting speed ahead of safety, pushing out software updates just to keep investors happy and maintain that image of being the leader in autonomy, even if the tech isn't really there yet.
It's possible, and that timeline they have for full autonomy, surpassing human driver safety by Q2 2025, that's just 2 years away. It's a very aggressive target.
Full autonomy is incredibly complex. We're talking about making sure these cars can handle any situation, right? Bad weather, pedestrians doing unpredictable things, construction zones, even the ethical dilemmas that come up in unavoidable accident situations. To think they can solve all of that in just 2 years seems, well, a bit out of touch with reality.
It's like they're not really taking the scale of the challenge seriously. Or maybe they are, but they're downplaying it on purpose. Makes you wonder, are investors being misled? Are they being sold a story that's more hype than substance?
And let's not forget the legal stuff, too. The regulations. If their FSD system causes an accident, who's at fault? Tesla, the driver, the software developers. It's all uncharted territory.
It's a mess, and it makes me question if Tesla is truly ready for what it means to put autonomous vehicles on the road in large numbers.
That's a huge responsibility. And speaking of responsibility, let's talk about Optimus, this humanoid robot that Elon Musk insists will revolutionize labor and become the most valuable product ever. That's a pretty bold statement.
It is, and it's one we should be looking at with a healthy dose of skepticism. Tesla's good at AI, they're good at manufacturing, that's true, but they're stepping into a world of robotics that's already incredibly competitive.
You mentioned Hyundai with Boston Dynamics and Toyota before. They've been in the robotics game for decades. They're not standing still. They're investing a lot in AI and building their own humanoid robots.
Exactly. And there are tons of other companies, research labs, startups, all working hard on robotics and AI. To think Tesla is just going to waltz in and take over just because they've done well with electric cars seems a bit naive.
It's like they're using the same playbook they use for EVs.
Hmm.
Disrupt, innovate, dominate. But robotics is different. It's not as easy to control.
Right. And there are so many practical questions about Optimus, too. Let's say they actually get past all the technical challenges and build a reliable, functional humanoid robot. How are they going to mass produce it at a price that makes sense?
Yeah, if Optimus is going to revolutionize anything, it has to be affordable, right? Not just some expensive toy for rich people or a niche product for a few industries.
Exactly. And then there are the ethical issues, too. How do we make sure these robots are used in the right way? What about all the jobs that could be lost? What does it mean for the future of work? These are questions Tesla needs to be thinking about.
They need to think about the potential risks, the challenges, not just the good things that could happen, just like with FSD.
It comes down to trust. Can we trust Tesla to do the right thing with these advanced technologies? Can we believe what they say about safety and reliability? Are their goals actually good for society as a whole?
It's tough to say. I don't have all the answers. But we need to keep asking these questions, holding Tesla accountable. We can't just accept everything they say without thinking critically.
Absolutely. And on top of all that, we have to remember the financial side of things. Tesla is making record profits, but there are still questions about how sustainable those profits are.
You're talking about those red flags we discussed earlier, the reliance on regulatory credits, the accounting practices, the possibility that their profit margins aren't as solid as they appear.
Exactly. If their core business isn't as profitable as they claim, can they really afford to chase these big long-term projects? FSD, Optimus? Are they spreading themselves too thin? Maybe they're so focused on futuristic dreams that they're forgetting about the basics of their business.
It's a risky balancing act,
Yeah.
like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation that's starting to crack. And then you add Elon Musk into the equation. He's a brilliant innovator. He's a master of getting people excited about the future, but he's also unpredictable. His tweets, his impulsive decisions, his tendency to overpromise, it all creates a lot of uncertainty.
It's a double-edged sword. On one side, you have this visionary leader who's taken Tesla to incredible heights, but on the other side, you have someone whose impulsiveness and hype-driven approach raise questions about the company's long-term stability.
It's a fascinating situation. It makes Tesla one of the most interesting, but also one of the most controversial companies out there. But as we've said, you have to look at their story carefully. Separate the real innovation from the carefully crafted narrative. So where does this leave us? We've analyzed their financials. We've looked at their claims about FSD and Optimus. We've talked about the complexities of their leadership and strategy. What's the message for our listeners?
I think what we're seeing with Tesla is a company full of contradictions. On one hand, they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible, but on the other, there are these serious concerns about their transparency and whether they can actually last in the long run. They've got this vision of the future that everyone's captivated by, but at the same time, they're making these really bold claims and setting these aggressive timelines that make people skeptical.
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act. I think anyone who's paying attention to Tesla, whether you're an investor or a customer or just interested in the world of tech, you have to look at their story with a critical eye. We can't just accept the hype at face value. We need to be asking tough questions, examining the evidence, and considering the potential risks alongside the potential rewards.
Exactly. And that brings us back to, what does this all mean for you? How do you navigate this whole thing? It's complicated.
Well, I think the first thing is you got to be skeptical. Don't let yourself be swayed by flashy presentations or bold claims. Look deeper. Go beyond the headlines.
Yeah. Dig into the financial reports. Understand how these companies are making money, how they're spending it. Look at the analysis from experts in the industry. Don't just rely on what the company tells you.
And don't be afraid to question things, even if it's the popular opinion, especially when it comes to new technologies like autonomous driving and AI.
Right. This is all still very new. It's going to be messy. There will be bumps along the road, setbacks, delays, things we can't even predict right now.
And that's okay. That's how innovation works. But we need to be realistic about how long things will take and what the risks are. Don't get caught up in the hype.
And make sure you're getting your information from a variety of sources. Don't just listen to what the company is saying or read articles that are just repeating the company line.
Look for independent research, analysis that's critical, different points of view. The more informed you are, the the better decisions you can make
Yeah.
as an investor, as a consumer, as someone who's living in this rapidly changing world.
And we can't forget about ethics, social responsibility. As technology becomes more powerful, more integrated into our lives, we have to think about its impact on society as a whole.
What does it mean for jobs, for privacy, for inequality, for
Mhm.
human connection? These are important questions, right? We can't just be excited about shiny new gadgets without thinking about the bigger picture.
Yeah, the future of technology isn't something that's just decided by one company or a few powerful people. It's up to all of us.
We all have a responsibility to shape this future, to make sure it benefits everyone, not just a few.
So, as you keep following Tesla, as you watch how the tech industry evolves, remember, stay informed, be skeptical, get involved, and be ethical.
The choices we make now will have big consequences down the road. We need to choose wisely.
I hope this deep dive into Tesla has given you some things to think about, some tools to analyze what's happening, to separate the real from the hype.
It's a story that's not over yet. We'll keep following it and exploring all the twists and turns in future deep dives.
For now, stay curious, stay informed, and keep asking those tough questions.
Thanks for joining us.